It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman. With us again is Mary Jo Parrish from Kingdom Builders.
Thanks for having me, Kyle. I always look forward to our discussions.
Oh, I do too.
Good.
What's going on with Kingdom Builders these days?
Well, we had 3 gatherings in September. Those went awesome, but we recorded our own YouTube rosary. So one of the things we talk about is just filling our time with when we're doing menial tasks, like cutting food up for dinner or driving or cleaning, that we're just always praying. So I like to be able to go to YouTube and press play, but wasn't like loving any of the rosaries that were on YouTube. And I was like, we could do something more beautiful. So we recorded one and it is awesome. So we still have the videographer still like working out the details. Hopefully we're going to launch that in a couple weeks. Yeah.
So is a video of the whole group doing it or just a couple of the women?
It's a video of about 40 women praying it. So we recorded 1 Divine Mercy Chaplet and then 1 rosary. Our goal is to make the rosary 15 minutes. So if I'm going to look at the YouTube rosary and I look at like 17-minute rosary, and then 15-minute rosary, I'm like, well, 17 minutes is really long. But 15 minutes, I have 15 minutes. And so the goal is just to get people to pray. So we're pretty excited about it.
Very nice. And so how did the September gatherings go? 3 different locations?
Yes. So we did 3 different locations, and they went really well. We discussed honoring Jesus with our most rare resource, our time. When I was praying with the readings for September, so I'm always praying with the Sunday readings for the month, one thing that kept coming up is proper use of our treasure. And praying with that, I was like, okay, what do people treasure most? And I was thinking, if I get something from the school, it says that you can either volunteer 5 hours in the classroom or pay $20. I am 100% going to pay $20 because I value my time more than I value my money.
Sure.
And so when we're talking about what we treasure, everyone's so busy. I think people value their time more. So if we're like thinking about that, like how do we honor our time if that's our treasure? So there's this passage from Luke, whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Which of you wishing to construct a tower does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if there's enough for its completion? In the same way, anyone who does not renounce all his possessions cannot be my disciple. Yeah, I love that one.
So what are some of the key takeaways whenever we're talking about valuing time?
Right. I read many years ago Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It was an excellent book. I strongly recommend that one. But the one thing he talked about was this time quadrant. So we had this quadrant like a box, and it's split into 4 little boxes. And the top 2 boxes are things that are important. One would be urgent, and the other one would be not urgent. So like if your child goes to the emergency room, urgent and important. Your car breaks down, urgent and important. You have a test you're taking, urgent and important. And those things that have to be handled right then. And then there's the other box up there, which is not urgent, but it's really important. So the not urgent but important prayer is a huge one because we can go without it, right? And then all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, why did I do that? Planning. So for us, it's like setting our goals, true restful recreational activities, going to a park, reading a good book, actually resting, and then like taking care of our health. It's not urgent, but it's important. Exercise, scheduling maintenance doctor's appointments, and like time spent with loved ones or taking a date night. All these are super important, but we can say, I'll do it later, but it really needs to be handled now. And then these bottom 2 quadrants, which are not important, but we spend a lot of time there. So the ones that keep popping up, like, look at me, look at me. If you have like a 4-year-old says, mom, look at me, look at me. The notifications for Instagram, Snapchat, the texts, ringing phones. I was talking to my daughter at college, and the entire time I was talking to her, these different sounds were going off. I was like 20-minute phone call, and I'm not exaggerating, over 100 dings came off. And I was like, I can't even talk to you, right? How do you even rest with that? It's crazy. But that constantly is pulling your attention away. Right. And then the not urgent, not important, just the scrolling Facebook or endless binging on Netflix or video games or whatever. It's like looking at those quadrants is like for us to be able to honor how God intended us to honor them, and really looking at that sacred quadrant of prayer and planning and preparation.
So that idea of honoring time, besides kind of identifying where these fit in priorities, what else would you suggest?
There's this quote that's called love is spelled Time. So love is spelled time. And when I first read that quote, it kind of irritated me. And I always know, like, if I get a little bit defensive, there's probably some truth there. There's like a lot of truth there. So one of my big time wasters is my phone. And so I kind of wanted to see, okay, like, get real, what's happening with my phone. So I went to settings and I clicked screen time. And when I taught about this at the gathering, there was this sharp intake of breath. Like, oh my gosh, she's going to go there. And what I found is that I was spending 3 hours and 7 minutes on my phone every single day. And if that wasn't like horrifying enough, there was like a little thing that said down 26.2% from last week. Yep. Like, what?
Hey, making progress.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my goodness. That's almost 22 hours a week on my phone. And that's like super depressing. So I keep scrolling down. I'm like, okay, what are my other statistics? I average 81 times a day of picking up my phone to check it. 81 times a day I'm picking up my phone. My most pickups was Tuesday at 123 pickups. That's the night we launched Sacred Heart. So like I was texting a lot of people, but still it's way too much. And I pick up my phone on average 17 times a day just to check Facebook, because it will tell you what you go to when you pick it up.
Interesting.
Yep. So that was for me.
But in your defense, you're also...
Yes, I know.
You're using Facebook as a way to minister, and
That's
you're
true.
on YouTube because you're listening to the rosary. So it's not all negative things. Some of these uses probably fit in your urgent priorities.
But Kyle, I have to be honest. A lot of it was not. Okay, yeah, I'm going to be completely honest. A lot of it was not. Yeah. But it's like you always, once in a while, regularly get on the scale and see, okay, where am I at? Why did you eat the whole box of Twinkies? What are you doing? Like just kind of like seeing where you're at. So for me, that was like a weigh-in. Okay, this is where you're at. You know where you want to go. You have to know where you're at to kind of plan that journey. In Luke, Jesus says, no servant can serve two masters. He will either hate one and love the other, or be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and mammon. So Thomas Aquinas says, the things that we love tell us what we are. And it's so true. Like, if God owns all our money and all our time, because he does, we're just servants. How do we honor that? We have to be a good steward. So
is this something that you've always realized, or is this something recent? Were you brought up this way? Or
like, if I'm looking at my life, I look at like who loved well, who loved well. Because, different people have different things that I admire, but God is love, and so those who exemplify that, I'm always thinking of them. One of them was my grandma Hilger. She loved every person she came in contact with as like a unique and beautiful person. She never spoke negative about anyone. She just loved people, and she loved to feed them, and she loved babies. And at the end of her life, when I would go to visit her, she did not know any of her great-grandchildren, any of her 38 grandchildren, any of her 7 children. She didn't even know her own name. But when I would walk into the room, she would give me a hug and say, now, who are you? And like take my baby and then offer me some food. They'd always make sure she has food in there to offer people. Love my baby. And she could pray a whole rosary. She knew the Hail Holy Queen, the St. Michael. She knew everything to pray a rosary, even though she didn't even know any people's names. And I always think like her holding these babies with her big German hands. She's a big German woman, loving. What would she say back to me, from heaven? And I think what she would not say is watch a few episodes of your show or scroll Facebook or make sure your Instagram looks excellent. I think she would say, Mary Jo, love your husband, love Jesus, love your babies, and don't forget to let Jesus love you too. And I think to like my single cousins, she would say, you're looking too thin. You need to eat. Yeah, you need to love Jesus, and don't forget to let Jesus love you too. I went on a retreat recently, and when I was in adoration, Jesus said very gently, Mary Jo, you do a really good job of making sure everyone gets loved, but when do I get to love you? And like so often, my prayers are for my friend who suffered the wound of abortion and having difficulty of accepting God's mercy, and my other friend whose son is struggling with mental illness, and I'm praying for all these people and a lot for my kids and my husband. But I'm not really just saying, like, God just loved me, just being in his presence and allowing myself to be loved. And that, like, the idea that actually made me a little uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, love all these people. Now let me go clean a bathroom while I'm praying my rosary. Like, and that's like who we are as women. Like, we'll give so much, but God wants to love us too. And it's not like when Christ said that, he wasn't mad. He was just really gentle. And I kind of had that visual of like, if you have a 3-year-old and they're playing blocks on the floor and you come over and you want to like love on them and they're like, Mom, trying to push you away. Like they're in the midst of playing their blocks. They don't want to be bothered by you. And it's not like you're like, the stinking mean 3-year-old, I'm so mad. You're not like that at all. Like you love them regardless and you understand they're busy in their own little world. You're not mad at them for not allowing themselves to be loved, but you desire to hold and love them as a parent. And that's what the Father wants for us. He wants to like love and hold us as a parent. And if prayer is that, like being with the Father and allowing ourselves to be loved, like we just have to make time to get there. We have to make time just to allow him to love us there.
So kind of maybe wrapping this up, what is keeping us from doing that? So with the kid, maybe it's this ignorance, like I don't know any better. And I think that's probably true for a lot of us.
Absolutely.
But for us that know better.
Right.
Why don't we make prayer a priority?
Absolutely. I mean, I've struggled with this over my entire life. I think one of them is some of the lies and distractions of the enemy. So one of the lies that has been worked so well on me for so many years is, you're so busy, just pray later. And it's either a procrastination or it's a priority. It's one or the other. It just is. It's like, okay, so you're busy. You're doing all these things. It's fine. God understands. You pray while you're doing those things. That's why I love the YouTube rosary, because I can just play it while I'm cutting vegetables. There's so many menial tasks we do where we're not using the fullness of our brain. Why not just connect it to Christ? There's no reason not to. Another lie that the enemy tells us is God does not hear you. You may not even feel anything different about prayer. Just go ahead and skip it. If we're a runner, and I'm not a runner, but like if I was a runner and I would go on a run and I would come back and look at my thigh and be like, no, do I have more muscle in my thigh now? If I would expect an immediate result, it would be ridiculous. Like people would be like, what are you doing? It's like people are on a diet for 4 hours and they look in the mirror like, wait, does my stomach look thinner? That's ridiculous. Yeah. No, it does not. Because it takes time. It takes time to feel that love and joy. And sometimes it's immediate. Sometimes you can feel his love immediately. And sometimes it's more peace and joy over time. It's slower. And the one lie that I think is a huge one is, especially for women, I don't know if it is for men, is your prayer's too messy. It's just not holy enough. You might as well go ahead and skip it. And that one, if we can like clarify anyone, God just wants to love us in the midst of our mess. If you're thinking about making dinner while you're praying the rosary, God's still loving you while you're praying the rosary and thinking about dinner. You're still allowing him to love you. And if you're coming to the Father with a heart of like purity or a heart of sin and mess, he doesn't care. He just wants to love you there. In the parable of the prodigal son, he doesn't just wait for the son to come back and be like, well, it took you long enough. Did you spend all my money? I hope you were happy. The Father's never in a bad mood. He anticipates the arrival of his son. He looks for him. And then when he sees his son, he doesn't just wait. He runs to him. This old man runs to his child. And that's the Heavenly Father that we have. He runs to meet us. It's not because of our good works, our bad works, or anything. He loves us in the midst of our mess.
All right. This is the topic of last meeting.
This is September.
So what's coming up?
So this next month is the Cross of Christ. St. Catherine of Siena wrote a book called The Dialogue, where she actually has a conversation with God, and he discusses with her how to climb the cross of Christ. And really all it has to do with love. So if you look at across cultures, across time, our music, our movies, our books all have to do with the idea of being loved and loving someone in return. And so really like focusing on that with the cross of Christ.
All right. And when are those happening?
Yeah. St. Vincent's is October 10th, St. Charles, October 16th, and Sacred Heart, October 29th.
And people can find those dates as well as videos of the past meetings at buildingthroughhim.com.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Check out the Facebook group as well.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mary Jo.
All right. Thank you.